The incinerator light flickered when it should have been idle. A child's wool scarf lay folded on the stainless tray, smelling faintly of smoke. I stopped, hand on the alarm glass, because the security log showed an authorized burn, approved by someone who wasn't on tonight's rota. Down the corridor, a girl coughed once softly. Protocol said keep moving. Instinct said don't. The incinerator should not have been warm. He noticed it through the soles of his boots before the indicator confirmed it, residual heat bleeding through the concrete, a faint vibration where there should have been none. The chamber light pulsed once, irregular, then steadied. He stopped walking. Palace nights had a rhythm. This was offbeat. The scarf lay folded on the steel tray, placed neatly, as if prepared for return rather than destruction. Child-sized. Wool, pale blue, one corner darkened by smoke. He did not touch it. He checked the wall clock instead. 2 minutes past midnight. The burn cycle timestamp glowed green, completed, authorized. He read the authorization again. Private seal, not departmental, no countersignature, no witness code. His hand hovered near the alarm glass. He did not press it. The corridor beyond the incinerator was silent but not empty. He heard breathing, thin, uneven, behind the service door to the left. A child's cough followed, quickly stifled. He shifted position so the camera would not catch his pause, angling his body as if checking a hinge. Protocol said do not deviate from patrol. Protocol did not account for heat where there should be cold. He keyed into the log terminal. The authorization had been routed through an informal channel, one used rarely and only by senior members of the household. The seal masked the origin beyond a certain depth. That was intentional. He knew the architecture well enough to recognize deliberate opacity. He made a decision without naming it. The incinerator feed was still live. He initiated a quiet lock, maintenance override, temporary, invisible to routine monitoring, 30 minutes before auto-release. Enough time to think, enough time to act. He logged the override as a sensor anomaly. It would pass unless someone looked closely. He opened the service door. The girl stood just inside, back to the wall, hands clasped at her chest. No shoes. The marble would be cold. Her eyes were red but dry, disciplined in a way children learn too early here. She nodded when she saw him, as if acknowledging a guard post rather than a person. "Stay there," he said softly. "Not an order, a boundary." She looked past him at the incinerator, then down at the scarf. She did not ask for it. That mattered. He did not ask her name. He scanned for burns, smoke inhalation, signs of distress that would require immediate medical escalation. None visible. The cough returned, quieter this time. He adjusted his stance to block the draft. "Who brought you here?" he asked. She shook her head once. Then, after a pause, she raised her hand and mimed writing in the air. Small letters, careful. Then she pinched her fingers together and released them like ash. His radio crackled. Control checking patrol progress. He acknowledged with a neutral code, voice steady. He did not mention the child. He did not mention the heat. Footsteps approached from the main corridor, measured, adult, unhurried. An aide, perhaps. Someone who believed the night would comply. He stepped out, closing the service door behind him without locking it. That was another deviation. He positioned himself between the footsteps and the incinerator room, posture formal, expression unreadable. The aide stopped short, eyes flicking to the scarf, then away. "There's been a mistake," she said. "You can release the system." He waited. On whose authority? She smiled without warmth. "You've seen the seal." "Yes," he said. "I've also seen the time." The smile thinned. "This doesn't concern you." It concerned him now. The incinerator ticked as it cooled. The 30-minute lock counted down, unseen. Behind the door, the child was silent. He did not move aside. The aide's gaze shifted, calculating. She reached for her phone, then stopped herself, as if remembering where she was. "You're delaying a lawful instruction," she said. Her voice remained level, but the words were sharpened. Release the system. He did not argue. He checked the clock again. 2 minutes gone. The override would expire in 28. State the purpose of the burn, he said. That information is restricted. Then provide the countersignature. She exhaled through her nose. You know how this works. Some materials don't enter the archives. He knew that was the problem. The radio crackled again, control requesting confirmation of sector status. He answered with a routine phrase, then added, minor systems check ongoing. Not a lie, not the truth. He watched the aide register it. Her jaw tightened. Step aside, she said. He shifted his weight, enough to signal refusal W. Without theatrics, I'll need written confirmation. Silence stretched. The incinerator ticked again, cooling metal contracting. The aide glanced toward the service door. She hadn't seen the child, but she sensed something else in the room, something unaccounted for. Her authority depended on speed and discretion. He was denying both. You're exceeding your remit, she said. He nodded once. Acceptance, not concession. If there's a welfare implication, I'm obligated to pause. Her eyes hardened. There is no welfare implication. Behind the door, something scraped softly, bare feet adjusting on stone. He did not look back. The aide raised her phone this time. I'm calling command. So am I, he said, already pressing the transmit key. He requested a supervisor presence, citing an irregular authorization pathway. He kept his tone procedural. Names could come later. The aide's call went unanswered. She lowered the phone, anger flashing before discipline reclaimed her face. You're making this worse, she said, for everyone. He thought of the scarf, folded, not discarded. He thought of ash pinched from small fingers. Command arrived in the form of a senior officer, posture immaculate, eyes taking in the room in a single sweep. The aide spoke first, efficient, framing the delay as obstruction. The officer listened, then turned to him. Report, the officer said. He reported only what he could defend. Unauthorized heat, private seal without countersignature, child object present, service door occupied. He did not embellish. He did not accuse. He stated times, codes, and deviations, including his own. The officer's eyes flicked to the service door. Occupied by whom? A minor, he said. That changed the air, not dramatically, subtly. The aide stiffened. The officer nodded once, a decision made behind his eyes. Open the door. He complied. The girl stepped forward when invited. She stood straight, hands still clasped. The officer knelt to her height without touching her. Are you all right? She nodded, then she shook her head. Both answers were true. The officer rose. The incinerator remains locked, he said, pending review. The aide opened her mouth. The officer cut her off with a look. You'll submit the written authorization, tonight. She stared, then inclined her head. Authority yielded temporarily. As the aide left, the officer turned to him. You'll file a full report, he said quietly, including your override. Yes, sir. And you'll escort her back to her rooms, the officer added, personally. He acknowledged. Another deviation sanctioned this time. They walked the long corridor together. The girl said nothing. When they reached her door, she hesitated, then reached into her sleeve and produced a small, singed envelope. She held it out to him, eyes steady. He did not take it. He signaled for a sealed evidence pouch instead. As the door closed behind her, his radio chimed with a priority alert. Review panel convened. Immediate. The override timer expired. Somewhere below, the incinerator went cold. He turned toward command, knowing the pause he'd created would not last. The escort order carried a time stamp and a warning, maintain discretion. No escort number was assigned. That omission was deliberate. He read it once, then deleted the display. The girl walked beside him, barefoot still, her steps quiet against the carpet as they left the service corridor and entered the west wing proper. The lighting shifted, warmer, softer, meant to suggest safety. It did not. Softness here was a performance. They passed a portrait alcove. He slowed without signaling. She matched his pace automatically, eyes forward, posture trained. Not by him, by the building. Her rooms were not where the system said they were. He noticed it when the corridor ended too soon, when the door plaque carried a temporary crest instead of the usual engraving. Temporary placements happened during renovations or rotations. Neither was scheduled tonight. He stopped before the door and scanned. No assigned guard, no camera coverage on the inner angle, a blind corner, architectural and procedural. He felt the pressure settle between his shoulders. "Wait," he said. She waited. He keyed his radio, requested confirmation of room assignment. The response was delayed, another irregularity. When it came, it was vague. Temporary relocation approved. No signature, no reason. He opened the door. The room was too clean, bed made tight, desk cleared. A single lamp on, positioned precisely to eliminate shadows. The windows were latched. The air smelled faintly of smoke and citrus polish. On the bedside table sat a small stack of papers, edges uneven, as if handled recently, then abandoned. She stepped inside and stood where the carpet met the rug, as if uncertain which space was permitted. He closed the door halfway, leaving it ajar. Another deviation. He noted it, then ignored the note. "Sit," he said, indicating the chair by the desk. She sat, her feet. It did not reach the floor. He did not ask questions yet. He checked the room for listening devices, for indicators of recent entry. The desk drawer showed a scratch near the lock, fresh. The waste bin was empty, too empty. His radio chimed again. A message from control, review panel delayed, stand by, time stretched. Delay was not neutral here, it was leverage. He returned to the desk and picked up the papers. Letters, folded and refolded, the creases soft, personal stationery. The top page bore a seal impression, not stamped but pressed, older practice. He did not read the contents. He counted pages. One was missing. "Was there more?" he asked. She nodded once. Then she looked at the waste bin and shook her head. No, not there. He felt the choice arrive before he named it. If he logged the letters now, they would be catalogued, examined, possibly destroyed through a different channel. If he delayed, he would be accused of concealment. The child watched his hands, not his face. Footsteps approached in the corridor. Multiple, purposeful. He heard the cadence before the voices, authority moving together. He placed the letters back on the desk, then adjusted the lamp so its light fell directly on them. Visibility as protection. He moved to the door, opening it fully now, posture formal. Two aides and a uniformed officer stopped short when they saw him inside the room. The officer's eyes flicked to the girl, then to the letters. "This area is restricted," one aide said. He nodded, so is she. The officer cleared his throat. "You've been reassigned," he said. "Hand over the escort." The girl's hands tightened on the chair arms. He did not look back at her. He kept his gaze on the officer. "I'll need the receiving officer's name," he said, "and the custody code." The officer hesitated. That was the opening, small, fragile. Behind him, the door's latch clicked as someone tested it from the outside. The latch released. The door swung inward a fraction, then stopped against his shoulder. He did not turn. He raised one hand, palm outward, a signal understood without words. "Hold," he said. The uniformed officer stepped forward, then checked himself. The aides exchanged a glance, annoyance shaded with uncertainty. They had expected speed, compliance, the quiet handover that left no record worth contesting. "I don't have the code," the officer said. "The order came direct." "Then it isn't complete," he replied. His voice stayed level. "Custody transfers require a code." One of the aides leaned in. "You're obstructing again." He inclined his head slightly. "I'm containing." The radio at his shoulder crackled. A new channel opened, encrypted. The senior officer from the incinerator incident spoke once calmly, "Stand by, do not transfer." The aide's face tightened. She recognized the voice. Power had shifted, not decisively, but enough to slow them. The uniformed officer stepped back. "Understood," he said, relieved to have something formal to obey. The aides did not retreat, but they recalculated. "Very well," the first aide said. "We'll return." "You'll sign the log," he said. Her eyes flashed. Then she signed, sharp strokes on the tablet, leaving a record she would later contest. The second aide watched the girl as they left, expression unreadable. When the corridor cleared, he closed the door fully and engaged the interior lock. He checked the clock. 13 minutes since entry. Too long. He turned to the girl. She had not moved. Her breathing was steady, controlled. He noted the discipline again and the cost of it. "You're staying here tonight," he said. "No one enters without me or command." She nodded. Then, after a pause, she reached for the papers and slid one toward him, the envelope she'd kept. The edges were singed, the seal cracked. He took it this time, placed it in the evidence pouch, sealed it in front of her. Transparency as reassurance. He logged the action on his device, tagging it with a welfare marker that would force oversight from outside the household. The radio chimed again. Command requested his presence. Immediate, he hesitated. Leaving her even briefly felt wrong. Protocol said comply. Instinct said delay. He made a compromise. He posted a temporary guard outside her door, someone junior, reliable, and instructed them to log every movement. He briefed them in neutral terms. No speculation. Before he left, the girl spoke, just one word: cold. He adjusted the thermostat without comment and draped the scarf over the chair, clean now, untouched by flame. He did not explain. He did not promise. In the corridor, he walked toward command, aware that each step narrowed his options. The letters were logged. The child was visible. Authority would respond. Pressure would follow. The corridor outside command was colder than the West Wing, the air stripped of comfort by design. Fluorescent light flattened everything it touched. He paused at the threshold when he heard raised voices inside, controlled, but sharpened. Authority arguing behind closed doors always meant the same thing. Someone was about to be made small enough to manage. He entered on cue. The room quieted. 3 figures occupied the table. Commanding officer at the head. Legal counsel to the left, immaculate hands folded. Household liaison to the right, eyes already assessing him as a variable rather than a person. "Report," the commander said. He delivered it cleanly. Timeline, deviations, the child's temporary relocation, the letters logged under welfare protection. He did not editorialize, he did not apologize. Legal counsel interjected first. "You exceeded your mandate by delaying the burn authorization." "Yes," he said. "On what grounds?" "Welfare ambiguity," he replied, "and an incomplete authorization chain." The liaison leaned back slightly. The authorization was valid. "It was sealed," he said, "not validated." A thin distinction, an important one. The commander steepled his fingers. "You locked down a system without approval." "Yes, sir." Silence followed, not punitive, evaluative. The liaison spoke again. "You're aware that certain materials are exempt from standard archival procedure." "Yes." "And that household discretion does not supersede child protection," he said, interrupting for the first time. He stopped himself immediately. The interruption hung in the air, heavier than the words. The commander's gaze sharpened. "Careful." "Yes, sir." Legal counsel slid a document across the table. "These are your standing orders," she said. "Point to where you're authorized to do what you did." He did not touch the document. "Section 14, he said, ambiguous threat assessment. She raised an eyebrow. "A warm incinerator qualifies." The object placed for destruction belonged to a minor, he said. The minor was present, distressed. The liaison's mouth tightened. You're interpreting intent. I'm assessing risk. The commander leaned back. Enough, he looked at the liaison. Provide the written authorization. The liaison hesitated, just a fraction. It was verbal. Then it's incomplete, the commander said. You know that. The liaison nodded once, conceding the point without surrendering ground. We can formalize it retroactively. No, the commander said, not where a child is involved. Pressure shifted, subtle, real. Legal counsel closed the folder. Until the authorization is complete, the materials remain secured, she said, and the child remains under guard protection. The liaison's eyes flicked to him. Temporary. Everything is, the commander replied. He was dismissed without ceremony. As he stood, the commander added, You'll remain on duty, but understand this, visibility cuts both ways. He acknowledged and left. In the corridor, his radio vibrated. A private channel request from the household liaison. He declined it without breaking stride. That refusal would be noted. Another message followed, routed through control instead. Escort reassignment pending. Prepare handover. No signature, no name. He stopped walking. If he complied, the chain would close around the child without him inside it. If he resisted, he would escalate a conflict already tightening. He turned back toward the West Wing, decision settling like weight. He did not announce his return to the West Wing. He altered his route, avoiding the main corridors, passing through service passages where cameras were fewer and older. The palace had layers. He moved through the ones built for staff, not ceremony. His radio stayed silent. That too was noticed. Outside the girl's door, the junior guard straightened. No entries, the guard reported. 2 checks from household, no codes. Good, he said. He keyed the lock and entered. The room was unchanged. The scarf still draped over the chair, the letters undisturbed under the lamp. The girl sat on the bed now, feet tucked beneath her, hands folded around nothing. She looked up when he entered, searching his face for information he did not give. There's an order to reassign your escort, he said. He chose clarity over comfort. It doesn't include the required documentation. She did not ask what that meant. She only nodded once as if she had expected it. He checked his device. Another message had arrived, this one marked urgent, still unsigned. Proceed with transfer. He made his decision. He activated a welfare hold, an escalation code rarely used, designed to slow systems by invoking external oversight. It would trigger alarms in offices far from the palace, offices that did not care about household convenience. The confirmation tone was quiet, final. His radio erupted almost immediately. Control, command, household all at once. He answered none of them. He focused on the room, on the child, on the immediate perimeter. Footsteps gathered outside, voices controlled but insistent. The junior guard shifted, uncertain. He opened the door just enough to address them. Welfare hold in effect, he said. Stand down. This is insubordination, someone said. No, he replied, it's procedure. A pause, then the commander's voice cut through, calm but edged. You forced a review. Yes, sir. Good, the commander said, because this is no longer internal. The household liaison spoke next, anger breaking through restraint. You're overreaching. He met her gaze through the narrow opening. Then the review will say so. Silence followed, the kind that meant the next move would not be immediate, but it would be consequential. He closed the door again and locked it. The girl watched him, eyes steady. He did not reassure her. He sat in the chair opposite the bed, back straight, hands on his knees, posture of a guard who would not leave. Outside, the palace adjusted, slowly, reluctantly, to a process it could not quietly erase. The pressure did not lift, It condensed. The knock did not come. Instead, the power dipped, just enough for the lights to flicker and the room to cool by a degree. He felt it through the chair before he saw it on the thermostat. A test. Systems rarely failed outright here. They nudged. He stood and moved to the desk, positioning himself so the letters were between him and the door. The girl watched him, attentive to posture more than motion. She had learned what posture meant. His device vibrated with a system notice, energy management recalibration in progress, no sector listed, no duration. He checked the seal on the evidence pouch. Intact. He checked the window latches again. Locked. Outside, the palace was quiet in the way that preceded activity, not rest. The girl spoke without looking at him. They said the fire would make it easier. For whom? He asked. She shrugged, a small movement. Everyone. That answer carried weight. He noted it and said nothing more. Children repeated what they were told. The words mattered less than who had chosen them. Another vibration. This one from an external line, the oversight office triggered by the welfare hold. A case number populated on his screen. Real. Inconvenient. He acknowledged receipt and set the device face down. Footsteps approached again, slower this time. Not aides. Guards. He recognized the cadence, trained to be unobtrusive to normalize presence. He opened the door before they could knock. Two guards stood there, senior, neutral expressions. One held a tablet. "We're here to inventory secured materials," the first said. "Under whose authority?" he asked. "Review panel," the second replied, tapping the tablet. "Preliminary." He read the screen. The case number was correct. The scope was broad, too broad. Inventory did not require removing items from protective custody. He tilted the tablet slightly so the room camera would catch the text. Visibility again. "You can observe," he said. "Nothing leaves." The guards exchanged a glance. One nodded. They stepped inside, careful not to cross the invisible line he maintained around the desk. He opened the pouch and removed the letters, laying them out in order without unfolding them. The paper was heavier than modern stock. The edges bore faint discoloration, not fire damage but age. These were not recent. "Count," he said. They counted, 6 letters. The inventory list showed 7. "There's one missing," the guard with the tablet said. "Yes," he replied. "Where is it?" He looked at the girl. She looked back, then reached under the pillow and withdrew a single page, folded small, corners darkened. She held it out, then hesitated. He did not take it immediately. He let the moment register for the observers. Then he placed a fresh pouch on the desk and nodded. She slid the page inside herself. He sealed it. "Addendum," he said. The tablet updated reluctantly. The guards finished their observation and withdrew. Outside, voices rose and fell, arguments conducted in low tones, as if volume alone could be regulated. He sat again, slower this time. The power steadied, the temperature normalized, the test had ended. He opened the addendum pouch just enough to read the top line without exposing the page fully. A name appeared, hers, not in address but in instruction. A promise phrased as duty, not affection. Protection stipulated. Conditions specified. Authority invoked that predated the current household structure. He closed the pouch. This was why they burned. His radio chimed once more. Command requesting an update. He did not respond immediately. He looked at the girl. "They shouldn't have asked you to carry this," he said. She nodded. Then quietly, "They said it wouldn't count if it wasn't whole." He stood. Outside the door, pressure gathered again, now sharpened by knowledge. The letters were no longer just sensitive. They were inconveniently binding. He keyed his radio. "Command," he said. "We have material that changes scope." Silence followed, then understood. The door handle turned, slowly, deliberately. The handle stopped halfway through its turn. Whoever was on the other side understood. The lock, they withdrew without forcing it. That restraint was not courtesy, it was calculation. He waited 5 seconds before moving. Then he crossed to the door and engaged the secondary deadbolt, manual, older than most of the system. It would not stop entry. It would delay it. Delay mattered. He keyed his radio again, this time to the external oversight channel. Additional protected material located, he said. Direct relevance to minor welfare. Request immediate secure transfer authority. A pause. Then a voice unfamiliar to the palace responded, measured, disinterested in hierarchy. Received. Do not release custody. He acknowledged and ended the channel. The girl watched him from the bed, posture unchanged. She did not ask what the letter said. She did not ask what would happen next. He wondered how often adults had made decisions around her without explanation, then called it protection. He did not explain now. He adjusted the chair so he had a clear line to the door and the window. He removed his jacket and draped it over the back of the chair, not comfort but readiness. The room felt smaller. Voices returned outside. This time one he recognized immediately. The household liaison, controlled anger wrapped in courtesy. "You're isolating a minor without authorization," she said through the door. "I'm maintaining custody under welfare hold," he replied. "You've read the letters," she said. He did not answer. Silence was safer than denial. "They're outdated," she continued, "superseded by current arrangements." "Then the review will confirm that," he said. The liaison's voice hardened. "You're interpreting sentiment as law." He checked the time. The oversight transfer team would take at least 20 minutes to arrive. 20 minutes was an eternity here. Inside the room, the girl shifted for the first time. She slid off the bed and stood beside the desk, close enough that her sleeve brushed the edge of the papers. He adjusted his stance to place himself slightly between her and the door. Not obvious, not symbolic, practical. A knock came at last, firm, official. "Open," the liaison said. "Now." He did not. The lock engaged again, automatically this time. Command had overridden it remotely. The handle turned fully. The door opened. The liaison entered with 2 guards. She stopped when she saw the letters laid out, the addendum sealed separately, the welfare codes visible on his device. The evidence was not hidden. It was arranged. "You've made this public," she said. "Yes," he replied, "to the extent required." Her gaze flicked to the girl, then away. "This ends now." He stepped forward, blocking the desk. "It ends with transfer to oversight," he said, "not before." One of the guards shifted, uncertain. The liaison hesitated again, just a fraction. Enough. A chime sounded from his device. External custody team arriving at secondary gate. He exhaled slow. The liaison's expression closed. "You understand what this costs?" "Yes," he said. She turned to leave without another word. The guards followed. The door closed behind them, the lock resetting to his control. He looked at the girl. "We're moving," he said, "soon." She nodded. Then, after a pause, she asked, "Will they burn it anyway?" He did not answer. He gathered the letters, securing them carefully, deliberately, knowing that the next chapter would not be about heat or paper, but about who was allowed to decide what survived. The transfer did not begin with movement. It began with stillness. He stood in the service corridor outside the west wing, the girl positioned just behind his right shoulder, where the cameras thinned and the ceiling dropped a few inches lower. The letters were secured in a hard case now, sealed twice, once by him, once remotely by oversight. The weight of it pulled slightly at his wrist. Not heavy, just enough to be felt. A delay notification scrolled across his device. External team held at gate. Administrative clarification pending. Clarification was a weapon. He shifted his stance to block the sightline from the junction ahead. The girl mirrored him unconsciously, her hand brushing the seam of his jacket and then retreating, as if contact itself might be logged. Footsteps echoed, measured, rehearsed, not a rush, a display. The household liaison appeared first, flanked by two officials he did not recognize. No uniforms, civil authority or something adjacent. Their presence tightened the corridor, made it feel provisional, like a space already surrendered. "You've escalated this beyond necessity," the liaison said. "The child is distressed." The girl did not react. Distress here was quiet. "She's under protection," he replied, "and she's a witness." The word landed. Witness changed things. It triggered obligations that could not be smoothed over internally. One of the officials glanced at the girl, then at the case on his wrist. Witness to what exactly? He did not answer immediately. He activated the recording indicator on his device instead. A small red icon bloomed. Visibility again. The official noticed and nodded, conceding the moment. "She was instructed to transport personal correspondence for destruction," he said. "Correspondence relevant to her own custodial status." The liaison inhaled sharply. "That's a mischaracterization." "It's a description," he said. Another delay alert chimed. Oversight was still not through the gate. The officials exchanged a look. One of them stepped closer. "The child will come with us," he said. "You can retain the materials." "No," he replied. "She doesn't separate from the evidence." "That's not standard." "Neither is asking a child to carry documents to an incinerator." Silence followed, not agreement, assessment. The corridor lights dimmed slightly, another system adjustment. He felt the pressure rise behind his eyes. This was how it worked. Inconvenience layered until compliance felt like relief. The girl shifted her weight. He glanced back just long enough to see her hands clenched in the sleeves of her cardigan, fabric twisted tight. No tears, no sound. He made another decision. He initiated a protective statement, formal, recorded, placing the child under temporary witness protection pending external review. The code was obscure, rarely used within palace walls. It would override household access and trigger automatic reporting to an independent magistrate. The device confirmed activation. The liaison's composure cracked. "You can't do that here." "I just did," he said. One of the officials swore under his breath. "This is becoming public," he said. "Yes," he replied, "that's the point." The radio crackled command this time, voice low and urgent. "We've lost control of the gate," the commander said. "Oversight is inside the perimeter." Movement at last, real movement. The liaison stepped back, anger replaced by calculation. "You're burning bridges," she said. He looked at the girl, then back at the liaison. "Some things shouldn't be burned." Footsteps approached from the far end of the corridor. New cadence, unfamiliar, unhurried. External authority. He tightened his grip on the case and adjusted his position, placing himself squarely between the child and everyone else. The moment of handover was coming. He did not know to whom or at what cost. The external team emerged from the junction without announcement. 3 figures, neutral coats, no insignia visible at first glance. Their pace was unhurried, deliberate. They did not look at the liaison. They looked at him. The one in front produced identification, holding it at a height the cameras would capture. Oversight. Civil authority, properly constituted. The corridor seemed to exhale around them. "We're here for the minor," the lead said. "Not a request, not an order, a statement of jurisdiction." The liaison recovered quickly. "This is still royal property," she said. "There are protocols." "There are statutes," the lead replied. "They outrank yours." The liaison's jaw tightened. She looked to him one last time as if searching for an angle she'd missed. He gave her none. The lead turned to the girl and lowered himself slightly, enough to meet her eye level without performing concern. "You're safe," he said. "We're going to move you now." The girl did not move. She looked at him instead. He nodded once, That was all he offered, permission, not reassurance. She stepped forward. He moved with her, instinctively angling to stay between her and the others. The lead noticed and did not object. The case on his wrist chimed softly as it synchronized with oversight systems, custody transferring in layers, evidence, then witness, then scene. The liaison spoke again, sharper now. This is a mistake. You're taking incomplete testimony and elevating it into a protected account, the lead finished. Yes. The corridor lights returned to full brightness. Systems resetting, already pretending nothing unusual had happened. They walked. As they passed the last internal checkpoint, a guard he recognized looked at him and then away. Word would spread, not details, implications. At the secondary gate, the air changed. Cooler, night pressing in. The palace behind them loomed lit and silent, its windows giving nothing away. A secure vehicle waited, engine running, doors open. The lead paused. "Do you intend to remain with us?" he asked. The question was procedural. The answer was not. He looked at the girl. She stood very still, hands at her sides, eyes fixed on the open door of the vehicle. This was another threshold, another handoff. "Yes," he said, until formally relieved. The lead nodded. "That may complicate matters." "Yes," he said again. The girl entered the vehicle without looking back. He followed, seating himself opposite her, leaving space between them. The door closed, locks engaged. The engine shifted pitch. As they pulled away, his device vibrated with a final message from command. "You are suspended pending review." He acknowledged reset. Ipped and locked the screen. The girl spoke quietly, almost to herself. "They won't make me go back, will they?" He watched the palace recede through the reinforced glass. He did not answer immediately. Then, "Not tonight." It was the only promise he could keep. The vehicle passed through the gate and into the dark. Behind them, authority rearranged itself. Ahead, uncertainty waited, formal, slow, and relentless. Pressure had not lifted. It had changed shape. The vehicle did not take the main road. It turned twice through service lanes before merging onto a route marked only by numbered bollards and sensor lights. The palace fell away behind them, replaced by administrative land, offices without crests, buildings designed to be useful rather than symbolic. He noted the route automatically. Habit did not suspend itself for suspension. Inside the vehicle, no one spoke. The oversight lead sat forward, reviewing a tablet. The driver's eyes stayed on the road. The girl watched the lights pass, counting them silently, he suspected. He adjusted his posture so she remained within his peripheral vision without making it obvious. The first checkpoint came sooner than expected. Not palace security, civil. The vehicle slowed, then stopped. A man approached the window, scanned credentials, then looked in. His gaze paused on the girl, then shifted to him. Recognition flickered, of role if not name. "Secondary review requested," the man said. "Authorization discrepancy." The oversight lead frowned. "By whom?" "Household liaison," the man replied. "Flagged urgent." There it was, authority reasserting itself through process. The oversight lead looked back at him. "You didn't tell us everything," he said. "Not accusation, assessment." "I told you what I could defend," he replied. "That may not be enough." The girl's hands tightened on her lap. He noticed the movement and made a decision. "Authorize me to brief," he said. The lead hesitated, then nodded. He transmitted a secure packet, surveillance stills, authorization logs, seal pathways. He included the most dangerous item last, a metadata trace linking the burn order to a personal device registered to Camilla. Not signed, rooted, plausibly deniable. The man at the window received an update on his own device. He read. Then he stepped back from the vehicle. "Proceed," he said. "No further holds." The barrier lifted. Inside the vehicle, the oversight lead exhaled slowly. "That trace," he said, If it holds. It holds, he replied. It was designed to. The lead studied him. You understand what you've just implicated? Yes. The road narrowed as they approached a low building set back from the perimeter. No flags, no ceremony, lights on every floor. They parked in a secure bay. The girl did not move until he did. When he stood, she followed, staying close without touching. They were met by two more officials and a woman with a folder held tight to her chest, legal, by posture alone. Witness intake, the woman said, and evidence. The oversight lead handed over custody of the case. The woman checked the seals, nodded once. You'll brief, she said, indicating him, separately. The girl was guided toward another door. She stopped and looked back at him, not fear, question. He met her eyes. I'll be nearby, he said. It was not a promise of outcome, only proximity. She nodded and went. In the briefing room, the woman closed the door and turned on the recorder. State your name and position. He did, calm, controlled. She slid a still image across the table, Camilla's device routing code highlighted in red. This suggests misuse of authority, she said. Intentional destruction of protected material. Yes, he replied. And the child? Used as a courier, he said, without informed consent. Silence settled, not disbelief. Wait. This will escalate, the woman said. There will be pressure to contain it. I know, he said. She leaned back. Then why did you proceed? He thought of the scarf, the heat under his boots, the word easier. Because authority that needs fire to erase itself is already burning, he said. The recorder hummed. Somewhere down the corridor a door opened. A child's voice murmured, then went quiet. He sat still, knowing the next move would not be his. The interview ended without ceremony. The recorder clicked off. The woman gathered her folder and did not offer reassurance. Reassurance would have implied control. You're formally separated from Palace Command, she said, effective immediately. I expected that, he replied. You're also not under arrest, she added, yet. He nodded. The space between those statements was where his future sat. She opened the door and motioned him into the corridor. It was quieter here than the palace had ever been, no footsteps echoing for effect, no voices managing tone, just work happening behind closed doors. They passed a room with frosted glass. A small figure sat inside, profile visible, feet swinging once before set. Ling, the woman noticed his glance. She's being interviewed by a child welfare specialist, she said. No uniforms, no household presence. Good, he said. They stopped outside a security office. Another official waited there, older, eyes tired in a way that suggested longevity rather than age. There will be pushback, the man said. The trace implicates a senior royal. Informally, that makes it dangerous. Yes, he said. Your testimony establishes pattern, the man continued. Circumvention of oversight, delegated destruction, use of intermediaries. Children, he said. The man inclined his head. Yes. A pause followed. Then, you understand you're no longer protected by protocol. I haven't been for a while, he replied. The man almost smiled, almost. They returned his device, stripped of palace access, limited to oversight channels. His credentials were suspended, not revoked, a holding state, uncomfortable by design. Where will you go? The woman asked. Where she goes, he said. That may not be permitted. Then you'll have to remove me, he replied, formally. Another assessment, another recalculation. In the interview room, the girl emerged with the specialist. Her cardigan sleeves were still twisted, but her breathing had changed, slower now, less guarded. She saw him and stopped. The specialist spoke quietly. She's been designated a protected witness, temporary placement pending. The girl looked at him. Am I in trouble? No, he said. You did what you were told. She considered that. They said that too. He did not respond. Some phrases lost their meaning through repetition. The oversight lead approached, voice low. The palace has issued a statement, he said. Routine review, no acknowledgement of the letters. They will, he said, eventually. Or they'll burn something else, the lead replied. He watched the girl listen without appearing to. Children here learned early how to hear without reacting. A phone rang somewhere down the corridor, then another. Movement increased. The building was adjusting, responding to pressure from outside and within. The woman returned. We're relocating the witness, she said. Secure facility, off record. And me, he asked. She met his gaze. You're no longer assigned, but you're not prohibited. He nodded once, that was enough. As they prepared to move, his device vibrated with an incoming message, not through oversight channels. An unknown number, text only. You've misunderstood your role. This can still be contained. He deleted it without reply. The girl stepped closer to him as they walked, not touching, just aligning pace. He adjusted instinctively, shielding her from the flow of people without signaling it. Outside, dawn was beginning to lift the dark. The world looked unchanged. It never did at first. He knew the next phase would not be about evidence or fire. It would be about endurance. Who could wait longer, who could afford to lose more. And whether protection, once claimed, could be sustained. The secure facility was deliberately ordinary. No crests, no guards in ceremonial dress, just concrete, glass, and a reception desk staffed by people who did not look up too quickly when authority entered the room. He registered the exits on instinct, then stopped himself. This was not a place to plan escapes. It was a place designed to hold. The girl was taken through intake first. He watched her disappear behind a frosted partition, shoulders straight, hands at her sides. She did not look back this time. That, too, was a change. A supervisor approached him, civilian clothes, clipped badge. You're not cleared beyond this point. I know, he said. You're also not listed as next of kin, guardian, or assigned officer. I know. She studied him for a moment. Then you'll wait here. He waited. Time moved differently without patrol routes to break it. The hum of ventilation filled the space. Somewhere deeper in the building, a door closed softly, then another. He stood where he could see the corridor she had taken, even though he knew he wouldn't see her return through it. His device vibrated. Oversight channel. Palace Command has requested your immediate return for debrief. He did not respond. A second message followed, flagged higher priority. Failure to comply may result in termination. He locked the screen and slipped the device back into his pocket. The supervisor returned. She's been placed temporarily, she said. Room, schooling provisions, medical check pending. And custody, he asked. Provisional, she replied, subject to review. By whom? Multiple parties. That answer carried its own threat. Multiple parties meant delay. Delay meant exposure. I'll need to see the custody order, he said. Her expression tightened. That's not standard. Neither is this situation. She considered him again. You're persistent. I'm consistent, he said. Another official joined them, legal by posture if not title. The palace is contesting T. He witnessed designation, he said. They're claiming internal resolution mechanisms were bypassed. They were, he replied, for cause. That will be debated. By people who weren't asked to burn letters, he said. Silence fell, not offended, weighed. The legal official folded his hands. If the designation is overturned, custody reverts. To whom? The household, he said. The word landed hard. He pictured the incinerator light flickering, the scarf on steel, the word easier. No, he said. The officials exchanged a look. You don't have standing to object. I have obligation, he replied. The supervisor sighed. You're suspended, you're not protected here. I'm aware. A phone rang behind the desk. The supervisor answered, listened, then looked at him with a different expression, less procedural now, more wary. The palace has escalated, she said. They want the child transferred tonight. He felt the decision arrive again, heavier this time. If he stayed, he risked removal by force. If he left, custody would be decided without him in the room. He stepped closer to the desk, lowering his voice. Then you'll need to remove me, he said, formally, with cause. The legal official frowned. This is becoming adversarial. It already is, he replied. Down the corridor, a door opened. He heard a familiar cadence, small steps, careful. The girl emerged with a staff member, cardigan replaced with a facility-issued sweater. She saw him and stopped. The staff member hesitated, uncertain. The moment tightened, authority, procedure, and a child standing between them. The staff member placed a hand lightly on the girl's shoulder, then withdrew it when the girl stiffened. A small reaction, controlled. He saw it and adjusted his stance, stepping just enough into the corridor to be visible without advancing. Come back, the staff member said gently. The girl did not move. She looked at him instead. He did not nod this time. He did not signal. He held still and let the choice exist where others could see it. The legal official cleared his throat. This isn't appropriate. What isn't, he asked, is making custody decisions without the subject present. The supervisor exhaled slowly. She's not to be involved in. She's already involved, he said. You just prefer when she's silent. The girl's eyes dropped to the floor, then lifted again. She took one step forward, not toward him, toward the desk. I don't want to go back, she said. Her voice was quiet, not rehearsed, not loud enough to carry authority, but enough to create record. The corridor went still. The legal official recovered first. That's not determinative. No, he agreed, but it's admissible. The supervisor looked at the staff member, then back at the girl. You're safe here, she said. No one is taking you anywhere without process. The girl nodded, but she did not retreat. His device vibrated again. This time command, a live call request. He declined it without looking. You're forcing a standoff, the legal official said. I'm forcing clarity, he replied. The supervisor checked her watch. We have a transfer order pending, she said. If it clears, we'll have to comply. Then document that I objected, he said, on welfare grounds. You don't have standing. Write it anyway. She hesitated, then typed. The girl took another step, stopping beside him now, close enough that he could feel the warmth from her sleeve through his jacket. She did not touch him. She did not need to. I can tell them what they said, she added, about the fire. The words landed harder than anything before them. The legal official's composure slipped. Who said? She shrugged. The people who said it would be easier. Silence stretched. Not the controlled silence of authority, but the kind that followed an unexpected variable. A phone rang again. The supervisor answered, listened. Her face changed. The transfer order is on hold, she said. Temporary injunction, external magistrate. Relief did not arrive, only postponement. The legal official nodded slowly. Then custody remains provisional. For now, the supervisor added. The girl looked up at him. Does that mean I stay? For now, he said. She accepted that too easily. He knew this was not resolution. It was containment, fragile, reversible. The palace would not stop. Authority rarely did when challenged quietly. As they guided the girl back down the corridor, he did not follow. He stayed where he was, watching the door close, memorizing the sound of the latch. His device vibrated one last time. Oversight channel, review panel convening at dawn, your presence requested. He acknowledged. Protocol had been tested. Custody had been held for now. The next decision would decide which one survived. Dawn did not soften the building. It only exposed it. The review room sat on the upper floor, windows frosted to admit light without view. A long table, microphones embedded, water glasses untouched. He stood at the far end until instructed otherwise. Habit again. The room was already occupied, oversight officials, legal counsel, two faces he recognized from Palace Command and one he did not. That one watched him carefully, as if cataloging. The chair indicated for him faced the windows, not the panel. Deliberate, he sat anyway. "State your role," the chair of the panel said. "Former Royal Guard," he replied. The word former landed without emphasis. "Current status?" "Suspended," he said, "pending review." The chair nodded. "We'll begin with the incinerator authorization." They did not ask about the child first. That told him everything about the order of priorities. He answered precisely. Times, systems, overrides. He did not dramatize the heat under his boots or the smell of smoke on wool. He kept to what could be logged. Pressure built not through accusation but through omission, what they chose not to ask yet. A palace representative spoke next. Calm, polished. "There was no intent to harm," she said. "The materials were personal, outdated, and handled according to internal discretion." "By routing a private seal around oversight," he said. She smiled thinly. "Discretion often requires efficiency." The chair raised a hand. "We'll avoid characterization." They moved to the letters, the addendum, the instruction written years ago, framed as duty rather than affection. He watched the unfamiliar face, read it, eyes narrowing slightly. Not sympathy, recognition. "And the child?" the chair asked finally. He felt the room tighten. "She was instructed to transport items for destruction," he said. "Alone, without explanation." "Was she coerced?" legal counsel asked. "She was compliant," he replied. "That's not the same thing." A pause, then the unfamiliar face spoke. "Why didn't you report immediately?" The question was surgical. "Because immediate reporting would have triggered internal containment," he said, "which would have removed the evidence and the witness from visibility." "And you decided that," the palace representative said, "on your own authority." "Yes," he said. The chair leaned forward. "You understand the implications?" "Yes." Silence followed, long enough to feel like a test. A staff member entered quietly and placed a note in front of the chair. The chair read it, then nodded once. "The child has been relocated," the chair said. "Secure placement, no household access." He did not react. Relief was not permitted yet. "The letters," the chair continued, "will be preserved pending judicial review." The palace representative inhaled sharply, then masked it. "And you," the chair said, turning back to him, "will remain suspended." He nodded. "For now," the chair added. There it was again, "for now." The unfamiliar face closed his folder. "Authority does not survive fire," he said quietly. "It survives record." The chair stood. "This panel will reconvene. Until then, all parties are instructed to maintain silence." Chairs scraped. The meeting dissolved without closure. He left the room alone. In the corridor, his device vibrated. One message, no sender ID. Text only. "You've delayed the inevitable. Some things don't survive, no matter how carefully you store them." He stopped walking. Fire destroyed quickly, pressure destroyed slowly. He turned toward the exit, knowing the story was not over, only stabilized enough to endure. He did not reply to the message. He powered the device down instead and placed it in his pocket, screen inward. Silence was a choice now, not a condition imposed on him. Outside, the morning had fully arrived. The facility's glass reflected a sky that looked indifferent to outcomes. He stood for a moment at the threshold, neither inside nor out, suspended in the same way his status was unresolved, inconvenient. A car waited at the curb, unmarked. The oversight lead sat in the passenger seat. He did not gesture, he waited. They drove without conversation. The secure placement was farther than the last, deliberately so. Distance reduced interference. The building was smaller, newer, staffed by people who did not look impressed by titles or threatened by them. Intake was already complete when they arrived. "She's settled," the lead said as they walked the corridor. "Asked for a book, no requests beyond that." "Any questions?" he asked. "One," the lead said, "about whether fire spreads." He absorbed that without comment. They stopped outside a room with a narrow window. Inside, the girl sat at a table, a book open in front of her. She was reading, slowly, finger tracking the lines. She looked up when she sensed him, not surprised to see him, not relieved, just acknowledging continuity. He did not enter. He stood where she could see him through the glass. The lead watched him. "You won't be assigned back," he said, "even if this holds." "I know. You could walk away now." "Yes," he said, "I could." He did not. A staff member approached with a document. "We need a statement," she said, "not testimony." Context. He took the pen and wrote carefully. Not about heroism, not about morality, about sequence, about decisions made under incomplete information, about why delay had been necessary. He wrote until the page was full and stopped without flourish. When he handed it back, the staff member nodded once. Respect, not gratitude. Later, alone in a small waiting room, he sat and waited again. Waiting had become familiar, acceptable, useful. Hours passed, or minutes. Time was indistinct when nothing was demanded of him. The oversight lead returned near evening. "The palace has issued a second statement," he said, "acknowledging procedural errors, no names." "Yet," he replied. "Yet," the lead agreed. "And the child?" "Custody remains external," the lead said. "Education, medical, long-term placement under review. She won't be returned quietly." He closed his eyes briefly, then opened them. That was as close to relief as he allowed himself. "You understand," the lead continued. "This doesn't end cleanly." "It never does," he said. The lead hesitated. "When this concludes, there may be recommendations about your reinstatement." He shook his head once. "Not necessary." The lead studied him. "You're certain?" "Yes." Outside, evening settled. Lights came on one by one, not ceremonially, just because it was time. Before he left, he walked once more past the room. The girl looked up from her book and met his eyes through the glass. This time she lifted her hand and pressed it lightly to the window. Not a wave, not a plea, a marker. He nodded once in return. He exited the building alone. Somewhere far behind him, authority would regroup, rewrite, attempt to reclaim narrative. Some records would be buried, some would not. Fire erased, but record endured, and custody, once made visible, could not be undone without witnesses. He walked into the dark knowing he would not be remembered for what he protected, only for what he delayed. That was enough.